In this lesson, we will learn about vectors and their operations, ベクトルとその演算, and components of vectors, ベクトルの成分. First, let's talk about fundamental vectors. As shown in the upper right figure of the screen, let the starting point be O on the coordinate plane. Also, in relation to vector A, create a point called A, such that vector A equals vector OA. And let the coordinate of point A be A1, A2. Now, from here, let's create point E, 1, 0 on the x-axis, and F, 0, 1 on the y-axis. And let vector E1 equal vector OE, and vector E2 equal vector OF. Vector E1, vector E2 in relation to the coordinate axis are called fundamental vectors. Next, let's talk about components of a vector. Just like before, let vector E1 equal vector OE, vector E2 equal vector OF, and vector OH equal A1 vector OE equal A1 vector E1, and vector OK equal A2 vector OF equal A2 vector E2. Therefore, the above vector A in terms of vector E1 vector E2 can only be expressed as vector OA equals A1 vector E1 plus A2 vector E2. These real numbers A1 and A2 are referred to as the components of the vector A, where A1 is the x component and A2 is the y component. The vector can also be written as vector A equals A1, A2 using its components. Now let's talk about the magnitude of a vector and how to find it. Since vector A's magnitude, absolute value vector A, is the length of the line segment OA in the upper right figure of the screen, when vector A equals A1, A2, then absolute vector A equals square root of A1 squared plus A2 squared. Now let's do some practice. Press the pause button and try to solve the practice problem. Once you are finished, press the resume button and mark what you got correct. Now let's check our answers. The magnitude of vectors B, C, D, and E are shown below. Were you able to answer them correctly? That concludes this lesson.